Hey, and welcome to another Revit video. In this video, we'll be covering phasing, all the different phases in Revit and everything that you need to know about phases in Revit, how you use them and everything. My hope is that this is a complete and comprehensive guide to phasing so that after you watch this entire video, you'll feel confident about using phasing in Revit, know what to do in certain circumstances, how to get things to show up correctly. That's one of the biggest things, and overall just feel good about using it in general. I will say at the beginning, if you at any point in this video you learned something, please demolish that like button. It really does help me out. Also change the phase of that subscribe button to existing. That also helps me out so much, and I do appreciate it very much. Let's get right into phasing. There's quite a lot to phasing, so I'm going to hopefully break this up in a good way to where things start to make sense. What I've got laid out now in just a basic out-of-the-box Revit template is these 4 different walls and doors. And you'll see how this all plays into phasing later on, because we're going to start to see how these look in when I start applying different phase filters and all of that, but I'm going to get into that later. So let's first go to the Manage tab and go to Phases up here in Phasing. At this point, we have project phases. And again, this is an out of the box, and I would recommend learning and using this out of the box phasing just so you can get to know what it is and understand it from a real basic level. And I will say before we even continue on that I really don't change any of this ever. There's no real good reason to. The real reason that you might want to change any of this information is if you have multiple phases to a specific project that need to work off the same model. And I'll touch on that as we continue to go. So if I look at phasing, these project phases out of the box, if you look at the top, it shows past, and at the bottom it shows future. So imagine a timeline. That's essentially what this is. I've got existing and new construction. That's very basic. It makes sense. You can get into your mind what that is, why it's there, because you may be working with an existing building or an existing wall, whatever it might be, something specific. You can always insert a phase before or after the selected phase, and you can also combine. So when would you do either? Insert, like I said before, if you have a specific instance where you have multiple phases in a project, and I don't necessarily mean if you have this part of the construction happening at this point and then next part happening 6 months later, that may not even be the time to use phasing. But a good example might be is if you have an existing building, you'd have everything in that existing building on that existing phase. And if you have an addition that you're adding to that, that would be new construction, very clear. And then maybe you come back a year later and the client says, well, you've done that new portion for us, and now that the project's done, we'd like to do a tenant finish out. We'd like to actually finish out our space with interior spaces. At that point, you would insert a phase after the new construction, and that would be considered to be your tenant finish out. It would be a completely separate phase to what you've done already. And let's say you make a bunch of phases and you realize, well, everything actually applies to only one phase. It's all kind of new. Well, what you can do is take all of these new phases that you might have either accidentally created or just unnecessarily created, and you can push them all into new construction. Now, how do you do that? You would take this most future phase, and I would combine that with the next phase. So in a sense, you're working backwards. You're taking everything that's most future and then combining it back up to the phase that it needs to be. So at this point, I can combine with the previous. So everything in phase 3 that I had now becomes a part of phase 2. So it's kind of 2 and 3. It's all combined together. And then I could do that again to take everything from 2 and 3 into phase 1. And then finally I can get all the way back to combining everything into new construction if you realize, oh, it all is actually new construction. So that's a basic rundown of the project phases. Again, I would try and not touch this because adding more phases into your project can only make things more confusing for yourself and others who might even be less familiar with phases. I'm actually going to jump past phase filters for a second and go to graphic overrides. So what are these graphic overrides? Well, based on the phase that a particular model element is in, will determine how it looks. And these overrides are how each phase of a model element will look. Again, we've got the projection lines and patterns. We've got the cut lines and patterns. You have the option of halftone in a specific type of phase, and you've got these materials. And if I go into this existing material, it is actually a material in the project. You could see all the information that is right here in this material is populated throughout this existing graphic override. Again, this is something I try not touch. There's no real reason why you would need to, except maybe for presentation purposes, but if you need to change the color or something of everything that's existing to pink just for a presentation, there's probably a better way to do that to where you don't have to go into the phasing and change that here, because like I said before, with phasing it can get very confusing. Everyone might think they know what they're doing, but the second you start changing these elements and all these different overrides, it can get very confusing and hard to track down. So these are all the different overrides that you have. You've got existing, demolished, new, and temporary, and I'll cover all those in greater details whenever we get to the different modeled elements. But these are the different statuses, the 4 different statuses that you have to work with when it comes to overrides and filters. You can change the way these look, but again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. As far as I would take it, is probably halftoning, but even still, I don't think I need to halftone everything that's existing in the project regardless of the view, because that's kind of covered in the way that these overrides are treating these different elements. In this case, existing is everything is going to be gray. Demolished is going to start dashing things. New is you're going to get your black bold lines so you can clearly see that it's new. Temporary, that's going to look a bit dashed like demolished, but it's going to have a blue tint, and it's also going to have this striped pattern to delineate that this is not demolished, but it's just temporary. Again, I'll get into all that later. So with all of this in mind and all the graphic overrides in mind, let's now go to phase filters. And again, if we look at the top here, we've got the filter names. If you just ignore the filter name for a second, if you look at these 4 columns, they're the exact same as these statuses, these phase statuses. Again, we've got the 4, the new, existing, demolished, and temporary that we're working with. And if you remember all these different overrides and you kind of know what they do and have an idea of what they might look like, you can start to apply and understand what the phase filters are actually doing. So what are the phase filters and what are they doing? Phase filters are determining, based on the view, and you change all of these per view, what is displayed in that view. So in this case, I'm going to start at show all. These are out of the box. I wouldn't necessarily recommend changing any of these elements because it can change the way things look, and out of the box these work perfectly. You can get an idea of what things are and change the views that you need to, and change the look of them based on the type of view they are, whether they're existing, new, temporary, whatever, based on all these filters. If you look at show all, you can see that the new, existing, demolished, and temporary is overridden. And what does overridden mean? Well, actually the new is by category, so it's not overridden, but the existing, demolished, and temporary is overridden. Well, whenever you see overridden, you can immediately know that it's applying these graphic overrides to that specific filter. So in this case, we have the show all, and existing is overridden. So I know that if I'm using the show all filter, I know that everything existing, every element that's set to existing is going to show up this way graphically. If I go to complete, complete is new and existing that are by category. And by category, it just means it's going to look normal. It's going to look as it is, kind of out of the box. And out of the box is just these basic black lines. It's not going to be overridden, so that everything existing will not show up as these gray lines. It will just show up as regular old black, kind of normal looking lines. Demolished is not displayed, and temporary is not displayed. And you might ask, why is that? Well, if you've completed the project, or you have a view that's showing the complete project, you're not going to have anything that's demolished because it'll be gone. And you won't have anything temporary because it'll be gone, and everything that's existing will just be a part of the new end result of the project, so it's not overridden either. Moving on to number 3, I can see show demo plus new. So new is by category. It's basic, it's new, it's not changed. Existing is not displayed. It's just not there at all, because it's I'm showing demo plus the new, and demo is different than existing. We can see by the different phase filters here at the top. Overridden is demolished, so again, show demo plus new. The demo is overridden, which means it's going to take all the properties from this demolished line here and apply those to every element you have demolished in that view. And it's going to apply the same to temporary because we're showing the demo plus the new. It's going to apply the same way there. Show new, if you had to guess what show new is, it's probably just going to only show the new. So what does that mean? If I see show new, everything new is by category, and every other status, every other face filter status is not displayed, is not there. I'm just not going to see it at all. Showing previous plus demo, that means I'm not going to see new. I'm looking at what's previous, as in if I go back to phases, the previous phase plus everything demolished. So I'm not going to see anything that's new. Everything that's existing is overridden, so I'll see that, those gray lines. Everything that's demolished is overridden, I'll see those gray lines, and temporary, not displayed. I'm just seeing previous plus demo. Again, previous plus new is the exact same as previous plus demo, except now I can see the new, I just can't see the demolished. And then show previous phase is not displaying everything that's new. It is overriding or showing everything that's existing and not showing anything else. The last thing I want to cover when it comes to project phases is, yes, I see existing and new construction, but when it comes to per view, I can change the phase of that view to existing or new construction. And so whenever I start to apply something that's previously, like on the previous phase, if I have something, a view that's set to new construction, and I have the previous phase showing only, I'm going to see everything that's existing. Perfect. Well, what happens if I have the view set to existing, like the phase set to existing in the view, and then I show previous phase? Well, I won't see anything because, there's nothing before existing. So that's just something to be aware about, and I'm going to start to show that now when it comes to these different elements throughout this example with all these different walls and doors. That's going to do it for the phasing. It's like the phasing dialog box itself, everything that you might need. At the end, I'm going to add a new phase filter just to show you how you would do that and the different options you have. So again, everything through here is completely default. All I've done at this point is explain what they are. Now let's get into looking at different modeled elements. So like I said, I've got all these 4 elements. They're just basic walls and doors, and I'm going to start to affect the phase of them and change the filter for this specific view. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom of any view in Revit, besides a drafting view, any real model view, you're going to have this option to see phasing. And right now the phase filter is all, show all. So I'm just going to see everything, regardless of how I've overridden it. I'm just going to see it all. But the thing you want to be aware of first, regardless of any kind of filter or change that you're making to any of these objects in the view, you want to look at the phase. So the phase itself is new construction. And I will say 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a phase of a view in existing. Now you might need to create some existing drawings, and in this case, if you're making some existing drawings, you're going to want to change the phase to existing, because that will allow every model that's considered existing to show up as new. So again, we'll cover this in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this phase at new construction. I'm going to select all these elements, and I'm going to change the phase of them to existing. And so what do? We see that everything is now grayed out, and it's basically taking those overrides from the graphic overrides and applying them to that existing element, because I am showing everything. I'm showing all, I'm seeing all the overrides. And if we look at show all again, we can see that new is just new, which is all these regular looking black colors. Existing, demolished, and temporary are all overridden, so we can see all these different lines and overrides that they start to take on. I'm going to select this. I'm going to take the phase created, and I'm going to change that to existing, but I'm actually going to choose the phase demolished to be new construction. And once I do that, we can see it starts to take on the demolished look. So these are demolished. And this is all based on my current phase, because if I change the phase of these, they may go away. They may not be there. They may be existing. Like everything like that will change, and I'll show you that too. I'm going to keep this at new construction, so that's all new. I'm not going to override it or change the phase or anything. But I'm going to take these walls, this door, everything, and I'm going to change the phase to created to new construction. But I'm also going to change the phase demolished to new construction. And so what does this do? This, if we look at this from a logical standpoint, if I'm creating it and demolishing it in the same phase, that's going to be temporary. It makes sense. It's not here after this phase, and it wasn't here before, so it's just temporary. It's kind of this, it's in this bubble in between phases, so it's considered temporary. So I've got all the different phases and all the 4 different phases that you might see typically in your project that you need to be aware of. So this is all great. That all makes sense. We can clearly see everything. But let's start changing the phase filter of this particular view to see what happens to all these different elements. Again, I'm showing all so I can see everything regardless of what phase it's in. I can just see everything. Great. So let's go down the list here. I'm going to do show complete. And so what happens when I do show complete? Again, before, you can see all of this in the phases, and this will actually tell you what everything will do. But to show it on visually, I'll do it here. So I've changed the phase filter to complete. I still have my phase at new construction. I'll let you know when the phase changes, because right now we're working with new construction. The phase filter is show complete. So what happens? Well, everything that's demolished is gone because I've completed the project. Everything that is temporary is gone because I've completed the project, and that was just considered temporary. And everything that was existing is still there. I didn't demolish it. It's just still there. It's a part of the new completed project. And I think what I'm going to do now is actually put some text here. So that is show complete. And if we show previous, or show demo plus new, now let's look at it. Show demo plus new. Well, clearly we're showing the demo. We can see the demo, and we can clearly see everything that's new. And so why are we seeing this temporary? Well, if I click on one of these elements that's temporary, I can see that it's demolished in new construction. Now, regardless of whether it's demolished in new construction or like whatever it might be, because I have the phase set to new construction, and because this element and all these elements are set to be demolished in new construction, they are considered to be showing up as part of demo plus new construction. So this is considered to be all demo, but these are also considered to be temporary. Moving along, we can go to show new. And if I had to guess, I'm only going to see what's new, which is this box right here. So let's see show new, and there it is. I see only what is new. That's one of the most simple. Let's show previous plus demo. So now I don't see anything that's new. I only see what is previous, what is existing, and what is demolished. In this case, show previous plus demo. And you might be asking yourself, why don't I see what's temporary? Why don't I see what's temporary? Because I just said before, if I have something demolished, then I would see it. Well, in this case, because it is show previous plus demo, I am showing the previous phase, which the previous phase of new construction is existing, what's already there. And because temporary is not already there, and it's not demolished in the previous phase, and I didn't demolish it in existing, I'm demolishing it and making it in new construction. So because it was not there at all in existing, I'm just not showing it. This is basically showing, and what I typically use the show previous plus demolished whenever I'm creating some initial plans for a renovation where early parts on into the project and into construction, all they're going to do is take what's existing and demolish specific walls, demolish specific pieces of the project, and then from there move on to the new construction and adding new walls, whatever it might be, to what's existing. So this is kind of one of the preliminary plans that you might set up to show previous plus demo. Moving right along once again, we can show the previous plus new. And this is going to be more of my final result for some sort of renovation. I've got what's existing. I don't care about what's demolished because it's demolished, it's gone, and I don't show what's temporary because the project's done. I'm showing everything that's previous and new, and I don't need to see what's temporary. I'm just seeing the final result with existing. And finally, show previous phase. If I show previous phase, the only thing I'm showing is existing. That's very simple. I don't see anything here as far as what is new, demolished, temporary. It's only what's already been there, what's existing. And then again, if I go to phasing in the Manage tab, I can see all of these different overrides and how all of these perform based on these overrides and these selections that I have per these different filters. It is very simple, but if you don't visually see it and you haven't worked with it, it's very confusing if you're just looking down here and seeing like, oh, what phase am I in? What's the filter? Like all this. It can be kind of confusing. I'm going to go back to show all now. And I don't typically use none because, you know, none is just going to show you everything completely new, and it's just everything should have a phase because either it's new or it's not. It's something else. It's not none. So I would only use none if you're looking for some kind of basic overall presentation image or something, but typically I like to use, you know, starting with show all is kind of a good place because you can see everything and you can start to like organize down. You can start to get rid of things that you know you don't need, start to see things that you need to see and get organized that way. Start with show all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the phase, and just be aware of what's happening. I'm going to change the phase to existing. So what happens when I change the phase to existing and I see show all? Well, again, I've got existing. This is all set to existing. But if now my phase is existing, this is considered to be like the new construction, you know? It's existing, but it's in the phase existing, so it's new construction. And before, this was demolished, and this was only demolished in new construction, but if my phase is existing, this is considered new. Like it's not demolished. It's also, it's all existing. This is all existing, which means it's all new. And because I'm not even to the phase new construction, it's not demolished, which is why I can see it. And this is show all. I'll go to show complete, and I'm going to see the same thing because this is like a completed project from the previous phase. So you might look at doing something like this if you need to see the completed portion of the existing building, but you don't want it to be visible as existing. Don't use this quite a lot, but just to be aware of it, I'm running through it. Show demo plus new in existing. Well, I'm showing demo. Well, there's no demo here, so there's nothing to show because I'm not demoing anything in the existing phase, only the new construction, which, is after the phase existing, which means it's not even technically showing. And what's new? Well, again, there's nothing that is considered to be new in existing except everything that's in existing. So it's all there. If I go to show new, again, I'm going to see everything because it's all new in the existing phase. It's all in the existing phase. Show previous plus demo. This is where things start to get interesting. Now, you might say, where did everything go? Well, if I show previous from existing, if I look again back at the phasing, I said this before, if I choose existing as my phase, and then I choose as my filter previous, well, there's nothing previous, there's nothing beyond the past when it comes to existing. It's just nothing there, so there's nothing there. And there's nothing there, so every model element is gone. Like it's just not there, it's not visible. There's nothing before existing phase. So if I show previous plus new, I'm seeing everything that's previous to existing, which we've just learned is nothing, and new, which is everything that is in my existing phase. If I go to show previous phase, like I said before, there's nothing previous to existing, there's nothing there. So that's a basic example of what you might see if you change your phase to existing in the view as opposed to new construction. I'm going to get back to new construction and show all so we can see everything once again. And at this point, I'm going to go into one other specific. I'm going to go to 3D, And I've changed my 3D to phase filter to show all in a new construction so we could see all this in 3D. It's all going to be visible in 3D at all times based on your phase filter. It's not just something you see in plan. It is in 3D as well, which is really nice. So maybe a lot of times what you might want to do is you might have a wall that is existing, where I've got all these 4 walls that are existing, but maybe what you want to do is get rid of the door. Maybe either you want to change the door, or maybe you want to just fill in the door with a wall. Maybe the door is just gonna leave and it's gonna become a solid wall now. Well, what would we need to do? We would need to change this wall to existing. Well, I've got it all existing, but I need to change this door to demolished. And so I've got it in the existing phase because all this is existing, but I might want to change the phase to new construction, the phase demolished to new construction. So the second I do that, I can clearly see that this door is demolished. It looks the exact same as that door and everything. But now as we start to change some of these phase filters, we're going to get some different looks. And so I'm going to run through these quickly with new construction again to show you what might happen when it comes to something that's like infilled, or if you're like kind of spot demolishing. I'm also going to take a portion of this wall I'm going to move the door over here, and I'm going to slice the wall in a couple of different places. I'm going to slice it here and here. So we've got a couple different walls, but maybe you want to take out this portion of the wall. So I'm going to set this as demolished too. So we can clearly see that's demolished, the door is demolished. So let's start to change the way this looks with the phase filter. And again, the phase filters are by view. I've got my phase as new construction, and let's change my phase filter to complete. So what happens here? Why are we getting this look? Of course, we've got a new construction. It's all new construction. It's complete. It's part of the completed project. But what happened here? Well, remember I demoed out this door, and I demoed the door. And what Revit will do by default is if you're demoing some sort of door or window, something that's kind of embedded or hosted into a wall, it's going to automatically infill that if you don't do anything else yourself. So remember, I did demolish that door, and you might say, well, I can click the door. Well, no, unfortunately not. You can only click this new wall. And there's no phase to this new wall because, again, Revit is automatically infilling this for you. It's assuming, well, clearly you just don't want a hole. And if you did want a hole, you would go through the whole wall opening, making some sort of opening, like cased opening, something specific in new construction. Whereas now, I didn't do anything to that, so Revit just infilled it, and it's complete. That's fine. That's just something to be aware of. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. But when it comes to this wall, remember I demolished that in new construction. So when I've changed the phase to complete, I can clearly see that wall's gone because it's demolished. And I didn't go through the process of adding a different wall there. So that's just the way it works that way. I'll go from show complete to show demo plus new. So if I show demo plus new, remember I can see this is all that was demoed over here. And then of course I've got my new, and then because both the demo and the temporary are demolished, they're showing up normally. I'll go to show new, and this is kind of funny because again, I had all those walls that were shown as existing, but the only new wall is actually going to be my infill for that door. I know that this does not say the filter or the phase of this wall this is new, but because it is infilled in an existing wall, it's considered to be new. Again, that's just what Revit will do. And of course, we've got all of our new walls here that is unchanged. I will go to show previous plus demo, and what do we see here? Well, we see all of our demoed, because this is all demoed in new construction, our phase new construction. But we can see all of our demolished door, our demolished wall, and what's previous. Our previous is all our existing here. Moving on to show previous plus new, we can see everything that's previous. These are all our existing walls, and then our new, it does include our infill, and of course all our new walls. That's nothing new. We've seen that before. And going to show previous phase, again, everything, this is all existing. Well, you might say, well, what happened to the door? Well, We demolished the door in new construction, and because we're looking at the previous phase, because it's demolished, it's not there. Same with this wall. We're not showing demolished, we're only showing the previous phase, so this is everything that's existing. I'm not seeing my new infill, and because I never infilled this wall myself, it's just the hole. That is a quite a comprehensive rundown of phasing and different circumstances of what you might do when it comes to phasing, what you might see when it comes to this or that. Well, the last thing I will cover is maybe we do want to infill this, and maybe we want to cover this new area with something else. Or maybe I want to add a door in a new location or something. So what I might do is I might add a different wall type. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this in the same place. And notice every time that you copy or move or do something, the default is going to be the phase created is going to be my current phase, which is new construction, and it's not going to be demolished. But I'm actually going to change the wall type just so I can make it look different, so we can see something else. So I'll change the wall type there, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to a different door. Maybe we've got a smaller door. Maybe we just need to make this a smaller door. So again, I'm going to copy this, paste this in the same place, and I've got a new door on a demolished door, so just be aware that you have that right now. But let's change this to a smaller door. And it's a new door. And I know this looks a bit weird and confusing right now, but we're going to run through these phase filters one more time and see what happens. So right now I'm on new construction and showing all, so I see everything. So let's go to show complete. So when I see show complete, I clearly have this new door, and it's the new smaller door. Great. That's perfect. And I've got my new brick wall showing. Great. And of course I got my new construction always there. If I go to show demo plus new, I can see my demolished door there. I can also see my new door there, and they're overlapping just because they're both in the same place. I've got my both demolished wall behind the brick wall and the brick wall. That's new. Of course, my existing and my demolished and my temporary are demolished, so they're showing up. And then, there's everything that is also new. Showing new, again, I only see my new construction and my new small door and my new brick wall. If I go now to previous plus demo, I see everything that's previous, which is all my existing walls, and what's demolished. And what's demolished, this door is demolished, and this piece of the wall is demolished. And then previous plus new, I see everything that's previous, all my existing walls, and what's new, my new door, my new brick wall, and of course my new construction. And then finally, show previous phase. And again, it's the same thing. I've just seen what's existing. I'm not seeing anything that's new or demolished, just what's existing. Going back to show all, I can finally see everything again. And this is a long-winded tutorial when it comes to phasing, and I really hope you did learn something. If you did learn something, please demolish that like button. Also, change the phase of that subscribe button to existing. That always helps me out. Really tells me that I'm doing something for you. And also, if I miss something completely when it comes to phasing or anything, or if you just have another question, leave that in the comment section below. I will answer them all, and I will get back to all of you. I promise that. I sure hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.